Hi everyone, a very good morning to all the radiologists, neurologists, and neurosurgeons for attending this meet. So, in this presentation, I'm going to show the basic concepts of perfusion imaging, and I'm going to tell the uses and applications of perfusion imaging and the types of MR perfusion, and I'm going to differentiate between the contrast and the non-contrast based on the study done at our hospital. And I'm also going to give a quick overview about the emerging clinical applications of ASL. So what is perfusion? So for me, the perfusion is like a colorful rainbow in my life filled with shades of gray. But going by the textbook definition, perfusion refers to the delivery of the oxygen and nutrients to the tissue by the means of blood flow. And how is it measured? So perfusion is measured by using a diffusible tracer like exogenous or endogenous. Exogenous, I mean contrast. Endogenous, I mean in the non-contrast perfusion scans, which I'm going to discuss later. And how is it quantified? So in this entire presentation, I'm going to use these two words frequently, CBV and CBF. So I think it's better I'll define them. So CBV is defined as the volume of blood in a given amount of brain tissue. It's measured in milliliters of blood per 100 grams of brain tissue. And the difference with CBF is CBF has a time component, cerebral blood flow. So it's milliliters of blood per 100 grams of brain tissue per minute. So RCBV and RCBF are relative. Like when you compare the region of interest with some contralateral normal brain parenchyma, it uses R relative. It makes sense, right? So basically in the perfusion imaging, you can see like in the tumors where the neoangiogenesis is happening. So the blood will get perfused more and it will help in tumor grading, surgical planning, and it will also differentiate between radiation necrosis and tumor recurrence. And many applications or many techniques use this perfusion imaging like PET-CT, SPECT-CT, CT perfusion, and DSC MRI. All of these uses exogenous contrast material. But the ASL MRI, which I'm going to discuss now, uses endogenous tracer, which means no contrast is used. So coming to the routine dynamic susceptibility contrast MRI, where the perfusion is calculated by injecting gadolinium contrast. It's basically a T2 based sequence. I don't want to bore you with all the physics. So let's directly go into our colorful world. So in this dynamic susceptibility contrast perfusion, you can see, so here I'm giving an example of an elderly female who is having a lesion in the pre-Rolandic gyrus. It's a brain metastasis from primary CL lung. So you can see this thick peripheral enhancement on the T2 weighted image. And on the perfusion maps, after giving contrast, we can see there is good perfusion. So this is the CBV map and this is CBF map. So here towards the red spectrum, you can see there is increased perfusion, it means. And towards the blue spectrum, it means like the perfusion is less. So both the maps are showing increased perfusion. So what are the disadvantages of this contrast MRI? So as by now you might have guessed, so we are giving an exogenous contrast. So gadolinium might cause allergic reaction, nephrogenic systemic fibrosis is also there. And some studies say that especially in pediatric population, it might get accumulated in dentate and globus pallidus, especially with the older gadolinium agents. And it's qualitative nature. By qualitative nature, I mean that so the RCB values which we get from the contrast studies might change across the studies. Even for the same patient, if you do tomorrow or the next day, the values might change. So only way to standardize it is by comparing with the contralateral brain parenchyma. And it cannot be repeated. It makes sense because if you give a contrast once and the patient moved and we get an artifact, we can't give the contrast again. It will be like a double dose to the patient. So coming to the topic of interest, ASL, which is non-contrast perfusion, which is non-invasive. By non-invasive, I mean like we are not giving any gadolinium contrast. So what is the contrast here? So our own endogenous water molecules will act as a diffusible tracer, and it will serve the function of the contrast. So I'll simplify this technique. So first, while the water molecules which are going through the bloodstream through the neck into the region of interest will tag the water molecule. Tagging means we'll give a spin to that water molecule, and while it's coming back, we'll reverse the spin. So both the images are acquired, and we're subtracting those images, and by that we'll get the CBF in the region of interest. So this is the ASL perfusion map. So this is the same patient which I mentioned previously, that pre-Rolandic gyrus brain mets. You can see the similar increase in perfusion is seen here, this red one. similar to that contrast imaging. So what are the advantages of ASL? So it's obvious, like no contrast is used, no gadolinium is used. So it can be used safely in patients where EGFR is less, or where the gadolinium safety is still debatable, like pregnancy, breastfeeding, and pediatric population in AKI, and in patients with nephrogenic systemic fibrosis. And another interesting thing is, as it uses water. As you know, water is like the major molecule in the body, and it has high permeability. It is permeable in normal tissue, and it's also permeable brain neoplastic tissue. But with contrast, what happens is in neoplastic tissue, due to the neoangiogenesis, the leaks might happen because the blood vessels will be haywire. There, the leaks will happen, and the contrast also might leak, and the calculations also will go haywire. But in ASL, it's not the thing. Like the water is diffusible in both the normal and brain tumor in the similar rate, so that we can get stable values with and the leakage algorithms also very reliable, and the repeatability. Even if patient moves, so the sequence came bad, we can repeat it any number of times because there is no injection of contrast or anything. It will just take another 5 minutes. Another advantage is quantitative, like the values are very reliable, and we can do repeated follow-up scans in the same patient, and we can compare them, which is not the case with DSC. We should always have a comparison value, and we should standardize those DSC values. So this is like a rough comparison where contrast is used in DSC, non-contrast ASL. And only thing of DSC is it's short, and ASL is little bit longer. The sequence is longer because it's still in its initial phase, and maybe in future it might catch the speed. So now I'm going to compare these two methods based on a study conducted in Jeslock Hospital. We did a prospective observational study on 50 patients with brain tumors, primary and secondary. And main aim of this study is to evaluate whether ASL can be used as an alternative to DSC, like the contrast perfusion in routine clinical practice. So this is a boring abstract of my study. We'll make it a little bit more interesting by adding color to it. So what I have done in my study is we have taken tumors, and we have in the where the tumor is showing the highest perfusion. So this is a perfusion image, contrast perfusion. So where it is showing highest perfusion, we have drawn an ROI, region of interest, and we have drawn another ROI in the contralateral brain of the same area. We have standardized the areas of ROIs across all the patients, and we have standardized the CBF values also. So we have divided the CBF of the tumor by CBF of the contralateral brain, so that we'll get a ratio and it will be standardized. So next, coming to the ASL, you can see both are showing similar perfusion in the tumor. So this is a highly perfused meningioma, parapalsine meningioma. So you can see both. This is a beautiful image of the ASL showing increased perfusion in this meningioma, which is correlating with the contrast scan, which are almost similar. So in our study, we have mostly taken the majority of the studies gliomas and metastasis to brain. So I'll show few representative cases. So what we have done is, so this is a grade 3 astrocytoma. You can see this ill-defined, mildly enhancing lesion in the T1 post-contrast. So this is the contrast perfusion, which is showing increased contrast. Similarly, in the ASL also, it has shown increased contrast compared to contralateral brain. So the next case is brain mets. Here also you can see this homogeneously enhanced nodules near the lateral ventricles in the T1 post contrast. You can see in the perfusion imaging and in the ASL, they are showing similar increase in perfusion compared to contralateral brain. So this is another beautiful image of ASL. You can see here, this is the thick peripherally ring enhancing lesion on T1 post contrast. You can see both this is a perfusion and this is a ASL perfusion. Both are showing similar increased perfusion values. So this is an operated case of oligodendroglioma. So the patient came for a follow-up scan to check for recurrence. So this is operative site in the right frontal lobe. You can see encephalomalacia and gliotic changes, T1 hypointense changes here. So we have calculated the perfusion in this area. So in the contrast routine perfusion scan, we saw no increase in perfusion, which is no recurrence. Same thing was seen in the ASL also, similar results. So there is a good correlation between these two RCBF ratios, even in post-operative cases, post-treatment cases also, post-chemotherapy cases also. So this is another image of brain met showing DSC and ASL are showing increased perfusion. So I'm going to bombard you now with some interesting statistics of my study. So I have compared the ASL and DSC values. As I said, I have standardized the CBF ratios. So you can see the values are almost correlating. They're almost similar, the medians in the pre-treatment, post-treatment overall. So I can say that there is no statistically significant difference in between these two methods. So these two methods can be used interchangeably. And correlation also, as you know, rho value if it is more than 0.6, it's a strong correlation, and p value if it's less than 0.05, it's significant. So ASL and DSC are showing like very strong positive correlation, which is really significant in all the groups, pre-treatment, post-treatment, and overall groups. You can see the strong significant correlation graph also. And we have calculated that separately for gliomas and METs, which are the major groups in our study. And same here also, there is a strong significant correlation between those two methods in gliomas and metastasis. And recently, many comparative studies have been done, like our study all over the globe, comparing ASL and DSC. So similar strong linear correlation have been shown in these two techniques. So finally, to conclude, what I want to say is like there is a very strong positive correlation between ASL and DSC perfusion values, and really there is no significant difference between the two values, whether we measured with ASL or DSC. I can say that both of them can be used interchangeably, and the ASL can be used as an alternative to DSC in normal clinical practice in evaluation of brain tumors. And as I said, many advantages of there for ASL compared to DSC because no contrast has been given. So now I want to give a quick overview on other interesting clinical applications of ASL perfusion MRI, which is non-contrast, non-invasive. So this is one new emerging application. So in the patients with neurodegenerative disorders, generally we do functional PET scans. So this is the first one is the PET scan. This is a normal MRI, and this is the ASL perfusion scan. This is, you can see in a normal patient where the red ones are well perfused areas. In Alzheimer's patient, you can see the relatively parietal lobes are showing low perfusion and here low metabolism. And in the frontotemporal dementia, you can see relatively the frontal lobes are affected. So these values, these relative perfusion values and these metabolic values are correlating. So maybe in future, ASL can be used as an alternative to FDG PET, which is invasive, because ASL is non-invasive. So another application nowadays, people are using ASL in strokes also. So this is a 50-year-old woman with the stroke, right? Hemiparesis and aphasia. You can see in the non-contrast perfusion and in the down, it's a contrast perfusion. There are similar non-perfused areas in this impacted area. So another interesting application. So in epilepsy, we can detect epileptogenic focus using perfusion imaging. Generally, people use FDG PET. So these are series of 5 patients. So this is the FDG PET sequences, and this is ASL sequence. The arrow marks are pointing towards the decreased metabolic areas, and here decreased perfusion areas. Almost in every patient, you can see they are correlating. The focal cortical dysplastic area, which is showing decreased metabolism in FDG PET, and same area is showing decreased perfusion in ASL. So both are almost correlating. So ASL can be used in epilepsy patients also to detect the, especially in normal MRIs. Normal MRIs in epilepsy, ASL can really be helpful to detect the focus. And another interesting application is cerebrovascular reserve image. So this is an interesting concept actually. You might have heard about stress test in cardiology. Like basically stress test is nothing but you are testing an organ to adapt to its physiological challenge. Like you are pushing an organ to its limit. For example, myocardium in the cardiology test. So in brain also we can do that. Like cerebrovasculature, we can test like how much stress it can take. Like in normal individuals, for example, if you give acetazolamide, which is a carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, 50% increase in cerebral blood flow is seen, which can be seen as increased perfusion. But in abnormal patients, in the example given here, so this is a FLAIR imaging and diffusion imaging of moyamoya disease of a middle-aged female. So anterior circulation is defective. You can see there are old deep white matter infarcts. So this is a baseline imaging of the patient perfusion. So brain perfusion. So after we have given acetazolamide, you can see in the anterior circulation the perfusion has been decreased, and in the posterior circulation, which is normal, the perfusion has been increased. So which means here the steal phenomenon is happening. So ASL has potential to become a good option for cerebrovascular reserve imaging also in stress tests. So finally, I'll conclude by saying that this new perfusion technique, ASL arterial spin labeling, is a quantitative, non-invasive, cheaper, because no contrast is given. Obviously, it's cheaper. It can be used as an alternative to dynamic susceptibility MRI perfusion, which is done routinely, and it will be really helpful, especially when contrast medium is contraindicated and in patients with impaired renal function, and especially for patients with multiple follow-ups, because multiple times we might give contrast to that patient. And as I have already discussed, the broad clinical applications, interesting applications of ASL in stroke, epilepsy, and stress tests. No. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prashant. That was very interesting indeed. So now
Thank you.
we will proceed to the debate. So for the debate,